my house. This is a weeping cherry, dogwood tree. We have a sweet bay magnolia, and oregano, sage, rosemary, thyme, and then Liberty. Of course, we need to have that. And there's our big fig tree over there. So this is just a little bit of prettying up the front face of the building. We can go around the back and check out the homestead. So as you see, this isn't an urban environment. Like, this is just middle America, just nice houses built in the 1950s, really solid houses, really mixed neighborhood, families and retired people. Oh yeah, the hibiscuses. Like, these flowers are just now starting to bloom. See? Yeah, I try to do everything natural. We take our own compost and we feed everything from wood chips and compost, and like everything on the property we try to keep as natural as possible. I debate with Joanne about the bamboo, because I like the idea of bamboo, but in practice it gets a little crazy. It likes to just shoot out everywhere. So we try to keep it. Japanese Tory gate. This is a style of gate. Had a friend of mine, he's a welder, build this for us. And it has a keypad lock so that we can keep the backyard locked up real good. And then the patio, the sunken patio area, it's a nice feature. I can see the sunflowers that are popping up over the fence. I've been planting sunflowers here for the last 5 years. And so around this time of year, that's when they hit their peak and they start popping up over the fence. I think Joanne's planted some hydrangeas down there and she's trying to get them going. Not quite sure what they do. But then the organic swimming pond is the biggest feature. Like, that was built 3 years ago, and there's a certain design to it, and it's designed basically like a giant aquarium where the river rocks act as a filter for the water. So there's 17 tons of river rocks here, and then there's an internal wall that makes the big swimming area, and then there's an external wall where there's a wood frame that holds back the rocks to keep everything separated to where the plants can grow on the periphery. So you're swimming in a natural pond where the water's filtered through the rocks and the roots of the plants. And then the fish, they act as scavengers that just eat up all the little composted materials, and they eat the mosquitoes and bug larvae, so you don't have to worry about mosquitoes. And so the whole system is just a closed environment where everything sustains itself, and we really don't have to do anything to it. It's just self-feeding. And we collect rainwater. Like, most of it comes from the rainwater from the roof. And I've diverted the gutters. So, like, I only have to add water maybe a couple times a year in the hottest, driest parts of the summer. And then the bed back there, like, it's a work in progress. I've been adding compost to it for the last couple years, and it's really, really fertile soil. I just haven't done a whole lot with it this year. But there's Jerusalem artichokes that there's a root underneath where you can dig up and you can eat the root. It's a real starchy root. And cattails and horsetails. And it's mint. It's just taken over. This is all mint. Clothesline. Joanne likes to hang out her clothes in the sun. Like, there's nothing better than letting the cotton linens sun out. And There's the old apple tree. It's green apples. And so this thing's just been thriving the last couple of years, so I've pruned it back a little bit. And the animal pen, this is where whenever I bring my animals in for butchering, I'll keep them back here so I can get set up. So I built this area for them where it's solid enough where they can't break free, and they're comfortable enough where they can stay here for a couple days if needed.
Is that the cage there that you use to transport?
Yeah, that's the cage. And what I do is I set that cage in the back of my truck where there's shelves that will hold it in place. So I just put the cage in the back of a truck bed, and then I walk them up into the back of the cage, and actually have a ramp where I can pull the truck back here and I can ramp them right into the pen without even having to get them out of the cage, so that there's no risk of escape.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have it set up where I can just drive them back here and drop them off without any risk of them getting loose in the neighborhood, which has happened before.
Has it?
Well, what happened was there's a German documentary crew that was they paid for me to get a sheep, so I got this Hawaiian ram, and this ram was beautiful. It had the big horns, it had a big frame, big belly, and this was before I had this pen built, and I was like, what am I going to do with it, because the Germans aren't coming for a couple days. So I put it in my chicken coop, which the chicken coop's over here now, and but it wasn't built strong enough to hold a ram. So what happened was the ram butted out of the chicken coop while I was at work, and next thing you know, when I come back, the ram's gone. And on the 5 o'clock news, there's a news report. No one knows how it got here, but a ram is loose on New Circle Road, and it documents where, I guess, a whole squadron of police who have no idea how to wrangle animals spent hours chasing this ram around town until they finally got an expert marksman, and they had to shoot it.
Oh man!
They killed my ram, and I, at the time, didn't really want to claim it because I didn't want to get city ordinance after me. So I let it go. But the statute of limitations, that was probably about 8 or 9 years ago, so I don't think anybody even remembers it. But there was a ram loose on the streets of Lexington.
That's funny, man.
So after that day, I decided, okay, I got to build something a little more solid to keep them from escaping. So I built this a little more solid just because raccoons keep breaking in here and eating my chickens. These are all the chickens I killed up this year. Yeah, we got 3 of them already, and these guys are, free range. I try to free range them during the day, and I think they're pretty safe as long as I let them. I think they want out because I've had them in here all day. Yeah, they're hot. It's about 85, almost 90 degrees today. But here, they really just want to be let out. So what I do is I let them, what I call them, they're natural born tillers. They get into the compost. This is a 3-bin compost area, and they know where it's at. And what they do is they go here and they pick and they eat the compost and bugs. So I don't feed them a whole lot of grain. Probably 90% of what they eat just comes out of scratching in the compost, which organic vegetables, meat scraps, garden waste, and then all the insects that come in here, and they dig up and they eat. And everything here I throw in here I try to be as organic as possible. And some type of squash variety just took root and started growing, and I was just going to let it see what it does. And there's a big burdock root right there. Like, I'm going to let that grow a little bit, but the burdock is a really healthy, nutritional root that I'll eat. And so yeah, I take the piles of the bones and the guts and all this stuff left over from my butchering, and I'll bury it in here with wood chips. And let them pick at it and till it in. And then after each year, I'll turn the bins over, and I'll take the most mature, broke down compost, and I'll throw it on the garden. And so this is the permaculture I've been doing here for the last 8 years. And so I've built up my soil to where it's really, really rich naturally. And then we have a composting toilet outhouse. Where there's a little bit of peat moss and wood chips. And that's what we use as the base for our toilet and human manure. So all our guests that stay here, this is an Airbnb, so we stay here and they rent out. And we have people come from all over the world that come to visit Kentucky for many different reasons, and they like it. They like the rustic feel. It's really private back here, and they have their own little space in the middle of the garden. I guess we can go inside. This is a sunroom that I built. Everything here is a lot of it's restore from this Habitat for Humanity. Like there's salvaged windows that I found for real cheap, so I bought the windows and kind of built the room around it. And so right now it's like a sauna, but in the spring and in the fall and winter it feels real nice. And then here's the main. Oh, this is Weston's room.
Yep.
This is where he's been staying.
This is where I've been living.
So it's more of an art studio. It was an art studio to begin with. It's Joanne's art studio that I use for crafts and other things as well. So it's a multi-purpose space. And it's just a little getaway too whenever we have guests or people who want to stay over. So loft bed, you know, maximizing the space for the tiny house. This is a carryo cabinet that I cut into a sink. And drawers, and has an instant water heater underneath of it, so we have hot water, all the humidity. Fresh water, spring water, harvested myself. Little kitchenette area. And then we have the shower and sauna room. So yeah, infrared sauna. So it's almost like a spa retreat. You can get in the sauna, then you can jump off in the pond. In the middle of winter, it's real fun. And we do resin art too, like this table here me and Joanne kind of did herself. Did you get a close look at it?
Yeah, I was looking at it when I was going to bed last night. Yeah, she did all this herself?
Well, me and her,
wow.
Like I did all the cutout pictures. Like you see this mouse here? This was on a National Geographic mouse. This was genetically engineered, or at least bred, so that it would have a fear response whenever it saw a human being. So like it was in the article, like these mice have been bred for generations to exhibit fear. And so I just thought that was so telling, just to put that in the middle of a field of green.
Yeah, that's funny.
And it's freaking out.
Yeah.
You see these buddies right here?
Oh yeah.
What do you think those are?
Those are, is that, I don't know, it looks like almost cordyceps, but it's different.
It's electron microscope trichomes. It's the trichomes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow. And then over here, I guess cool. This guy's pretty cool. He's hanging out in the field of green. See him? Yeah, I put little happy people like this. This guy's just swinging away. And you can't see it, but there's an astronaut climbing up this branch. Yeah, spaceman. And the lady
awesome.
just drifting off into a dream.
It's cool, man.
So what we do is, we fill our studio with all types of just stuff that we put together. And then this is a nice plaque. Takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new. But there is no real security in what is no longer meaningful. There is more security in the adventurous and exciting. For a movement there is life, and in change there is power. Just little affirmations. Just a reminder. Walking on the bed.
No worries.
But yeah, this is just a cool little studio space. It's always evolving. We're always doing a little bit here and a little bit there, and seeing what we can add.
Yeah, it's really nice. I slept really good in here last night.
It's real peaceful back here. rain barrels. We collect rainwater in the greenhouse. Nothing's going now in the greenhouse because we're in the middle of summer and it's 100 degrees in here. But in the spring, I'll get my starters going, and then I can even keep stuff going greens like late till December. Like just if I close everything off, my little greens and stuff will be growing all the way up into December. Then I can use the rainwater to water a lot of my starters, so we can collect a little rainwater and use it. And then here's my little private alcove. So I come back here and sunbathe. Now the walnut tree's gone a little crazy, so you don't get sun. But in the early part of the day, from around 10 o'clock to 1 in the afternoon, I can get some really good sun here just to sunbathe, because I think it's really healthy to do. And I lay out as much as I can without burning.
Mm-hmm.
Then I usually try to keep this closed when I'm sunbathing so that the neighbors don't see. I need to work on my clips. I want to build some clips in here. Keep my bamboo forest going. But yeah, for a carnivore, I don't really eat a lot of plants. I use them for garnishments, and I do a little bit. Like these are they're not really that big right now because it's the hot, dry part. But these are Alpine Strawberries, so like they're the little baby strawberries. And I don't even think there's anything really ripe to eat right now, but it's really, really small.
Mm-hmm.
And the burdock root, I'm trying to let grow everywhere because I've just discovered the properties of burdock root and how wonderful it is to eat raw. And I don't think anybody else out there is doing it, but I've had some good results. These are globe artichokes. Those are also an interesting plant. They can be boiled down and you can eat the leaves. It's like a flower, but it's real tough, so it has to be steamed to soften up. Going like those. And I got corn, like sweet corn. And these are the burdocks that have been let go for a while, so I'm going to try to dig up a burdock root right now. Oh yeah, see? I compost everything with bones and stuff, so all my old bone scraps and animal skins I'll bury into the garden. So I think it all adds nutrition back to the land. So, all right, see if I can dig this up. It's almost like a carrot that's not very sweet. It's got more resistant starch. And I think it's great because it's really low carb, which is what my diet's about. But it adds some type of prebiotic starch, and there's certain properties to it that, I don't know, they're hard to describe. But yeah, it's just the root off the burdock, and you can tell the burdock from the shape of the leaf here. I just eat it raw.
What kind of health benefits come from the burdock?
It's hard to say. Like, you read stuff online and it's like miraculous. Like, it has all these wonderful miraculous healing properties, and you look at it and you're like, it just can't be all that. And a lot of the studies they do, it's on cooked burdock. You know, like the Japanese will saute the roots with a little bit of soy sauce, and they and throw some sesame seeds and a little sesame oil, and you know, it's real good for people who eat cooked food. But I think there's something in it, just like chewing on raw ginseng root. There's certain live elements that are just kind of not studied. I don't think that they study this. There are some rat studies that say male rats have a markedly increased libido, so it could be an aphrodisiac. But like I said, I'm going to try to grow it everywhere. This is like the second year I've really been growing it myself, and I like the stuff that's homegrown a lot better than the stuff I get at the markets, just because I'm 100% sure.
Reminds me a lot of like a carrot.
It's like similar carrot, but it's not sweet. It's got a higher starch content. But the resistant starch, it feeds the prebiotic bacteria in the gut. And there's a certain synergy that with these roots that aren't very starchy with the carnivore diet. And so these seem to go better with meat. Like I can eat meat and this together. And I like to think that there's an ancestral heritage where the roots and shoots, or the feast and famine cycle when we couldn't find any good hunting and our ancestors were extremely hungry. They'd eat the roots and the vegetables and they'd graze and they'd find nuts and seeds and they'd eat things that were seasonally available in lieu of meat, you know, when they couldn't find it. And so like we've developed, you know, an adaptation to a lot of these foods. And I think a lot of this was lost with the cultivation of grains and vegetables which had higher starch content and higher caloric value, which enabled, you know, people to survive through famines. But at the same time, I think we've lost a lot of the natural elements that are in some of these more wild roots that people no longer cultivate, no longer eat. And so this is my own little experiment, but next year I think I'm going to replace the corn and just grow a pure whole row of burdock and then continue to do that because something feels good about it.
Yeah, that's nice. Pretty tasty.